Who are the best outside centres then? I've seen it said, and I've heard it said many times, that outside centre is the most difficult position on a rugby pitch to make because they have the most consequential decisions to make defensively, and they can be really exposed, and tiny mistakes can be magnified and can turn into game-breaking moments. So these are all outstanding players. I think it's a brilliant top 10. You may well disagree with some of the names on it or the order that they're in. Well, that's what the comments are for. I love the comments on these player power ranking videos, so do keep them coming. The rest of the videos, by the way, on all the other positions so far are in the feed, and one way you can make sure you don't miss any future videos is by hitting that subscribe button. I would love it if you would. And let's crack on with the top 10. At number 10, Anton Linnett-Brown of New Zealand. Now, question, how many caps do you think Anton Linnett-Brown has got? Just have a guess. The answer is 70. Well, I'll tell you what, that really surprised me. He's 28 years of age. He made his debut in 2016. He's been on the scene a long time, but he's never been the main man. But he's been such an important part of this New Zealand squad, and he's so reliable and dependable that, yeah, he's racked up 70 caps. And fair play to him. And he was really good during the Rugby World Cup. And remember, these player power ranking videos, they're not just based purely on the Rugby World Cup. That definitely is part of it, because I did videos during the World Cup of the best players at the World Cup. This is a slightly bigger picture thinking, so that it doesn't vary too much. The next time I do this, because I'm taking a bigger approach, the next time I do this, the list won't completely change just because some people are injured or haven't been able to play. Number 9, George North. And one interesting feature of this outside centre list is the number of players that do or have played on the wing as well. And George North is one of those. He was one of the best wingers in the world for many years, and he's taken the shift inside as the pace starts to decline. Not so exposed on the outside centre. Also, he's just a big old unit. 6'4", like 17 stone or 114 kegs in new money, and 120 caps to his name. He's into the 120s for Wales. And at the age of 31, that is amazing because he's got a few years left in him. And secondly, it's amazing because he's had a lot of injuries. You just wonder how high that number could have been. Could he go on and challenge the legend Alan Wynne-Jones? We'll wait and see about that. But all I know is he's playing great rugby for Wales, and he beat tons of defenders for Wales during the Rugby World Cup. And I've been sceptical in the past about George North as an outside centre. I thought maybe it was just a marriage of convenience because they didn't have anyone else. He's legit there now. Number 8, Hugh Jones. He's dropping down the list from last time. It wasn't a great World Cup for Scotland, so there weren't many players that had a great time of it. Hugh Jones had his moments. In fact, in that Ireland game when they got beaten quite badly, he was one of the few Scotland players who really had quite a good game. But he's got enough credit in the bank that I've kept him at number 8. Scottish-born, English-raised, then went to university in South Africa where he then had a great club career before coming back to his place of birth. And he's been an absolutely brilliant member of that Scottish team in recent years. 43 caps to his name, many more to come, you feel. Oh, this one pains me. At number 7, Joe Marchant. It pains me because he can't play for England because he's now playing his club rugby in France. Partly because Eddie Jones just wouldn't pick him, or very rarely picked him. And that's such a shame because he has been brilliant this year. He was one of the bright spots for England in the World Cup. I know they only missed out on the World Cup final by a point, but generally speaking, the rugby England have been playing has been pretty dire. There have been some really poor results. Joe Marchant has looked fantastic at outside centre. He will play for England again in the future, which is why he's still on this list. He hasn't retired permanently, but just as he's coming into his prime years, he's 27, he can't play for England. Fortunately, we have got a few other options there, including Ollie Lawrence, who has played 12 for England a lot, but is a 13, and if he plays 13 at international level, I've got no doubt he will be flying up this list. But as we go, number 6, how good is this list that Gael Fickou is number 6 on it? Because he is class. He is such a good player. 85 caps for France, still only 29 years of age. He's been on the scene for over a decade now, and he was just a phenomenon. He just feels like he's been there forever. And he's so dependable and reliable. He's one of those guys that never, ever plays a game where he drops below a 7, 7.5 out of 10. He has lots of games where he's 9 out of 10. He is very, 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 very good player. Love Gael Fickou. And Waisea Nayathalevu, captain for Fiji. What a baller. What a baller he is. Led his team brilliantly. Captained them to that historic win against England in Twickenham just before the World Cup. Just carried himself so brilliantly as well. A fantastic leader and an ambassador for the sport as well as Fiji rugby. But just an explosive player, powerful ball carrier, puts in massive hits in defence. He has had a fantastic 2023. He drops down the list on this top 10, but that is more a reflection of how good the players above him are. And as we move up, number 4, Jesse Creel. Now he's moving up from, what position was he? I think he was number 8 on the list last time. Fair play, Jesse Creel. Now a 2-time Rugby World Cup winner. The difference being in this World Cup, he was the main man at 13 and not a backup. And he did an outstanding job. There were a lot of people with Lukhanyo Am being injured who thought, well, yeah, Jesse Creel's a great player, but he's not Lukhanyo Am. As it is, even when Am was back and fit, understandably, the South African selectors continued with Jesse Creel. That's how good of a job he has done. And he's not only the most shredded man in world rugby, like about 1% body fat. He's muscle tone of a chimp. Defensively and offensively, he was fantastic. And he went way beyond what I thought his capabilities were. He was world class at the recent World Cup. And so, rightly so, Jesse Creel is at number 4. And now I mentioned earlier that one of the things I don't do is just base it purely on the last few games that we've seen. Otherwise, the list would be different every time. I want to take into account the body of work people have done more broadly, because then if a player gets injured, they don't just automatically drop out of the list. And for that reason, despite having barely played, Lukhanyo Am I still have at number 3, because what he shows in the moments that he has been able to show us in recent months is that he is a world-class outside centre. Unfortunately for him, a lot of injuries, quite serious ones as well, which has meant he hasn't been able to be maybe what many would think is he should be an automatic number 1. When he's back and playing, I could well see that. As it is, to be fair to Lukhanyo Am, despite having not played, I've still got him at number 3. Rieko Ioane at 2, another player. I mean, Am has played on the wing. Nayathalevu's played on the wing. Gael Fickou's played on the wing. Joe Marchant's played on the wing. Hugh Jones has played rugby at fullback. George North on the wing. So a lot of these players are multi-positional. And Rieko Ioane was the best winger in the world in his day. And he's on the way to being the best outside centre in the world. He has been fantastic. And the size of the guy, 6'2", like 110 kgs nearly, over 70 caps. And he's only 26 years of age. And he's only really just this year properly bedded in to this position. As I mentioned at the start of the video, lots and lots of people that know far more about rugby than you or I have said 13 is the most difficult position on the pitch to play because of the defensive decisions you have to make. Rieko Ioane is getting there. His pure athleticism and elite speed gets him out of trouble from time to time, but he's really growing into that role. And with the talent New Zealand have got on the wing position already, that's great news for the All Blacks. Meaning at number 1 still, Garry Ringrose. Just very, very rarely, if ever, makes a mistake. And defensively, rock solid. He's been so good for Ireland. And I think along with... No, I think I've said it before. He's probably one of Ireland's most important players, along with guys like Hugo Keenan, Jamison Gibson Park, Dan Sheehan. Garry Ringrose is like one of the Caelan Doris on the like elite tier of Ireland's team and one of the hardest to replace when he's injured. He is that good. I think he deserves to be in the number 1 spot. 57 caps to his name. There's quite a bunch of players, by the way, that aren't on this list. I'll talk about them in a minute. But what do you think of Garry Ringrose at number 1? I know it was a slightly disappointing World Cup from Ireland's perspective, but when you look at his whole body of work, when you look at the way he's played over the last year or so, part of 2 Irish Grand Slams to his name now, part of the arguably the best Irish team of all time, and he is one of the very best players in that team. So Gary Ringrose, I've got no hesitation putting him at number 1. What do you reckon? Let me know. Here is the top 10 overall, just so you can have a little bit of a gander at the players that are moving up the list, dropping down the list, staying the same in the case of Gary Ringrose. And yeah, some players not in the top 10. Cinti for Argentina. Ollie Lawrence I mentioned for England. Kanan Moody. Again, he's a player that you think will be rocketing up this list at some point if he gets played at 13, or will he be a winger? Unsure on that one at the moment, but I'm very happy with that. What do you think? Where do you think I've got it wrong? Anyone else you think I should have included instead? Let me know. And that is your outside centre for the player power rankings. I'm doing this for every position, like I say. So all the videos are there in the channel. You can really help. It's just me, and I want to reach as many rugby fans as possible. I don't have a marketing budget. I don't have a big corporation behind me. It's just me. So one way you can help, giving the video a thumbs up, sharing the video, leaving your comment, and hitting subscribe. I'll see you on the next one.